extraordinary camp by Grandmaster Ioannis Papaioannou. This camp is first of a kind because we take one major opening like Najdorf and we make really deep dive into all the strategic ideas, tactical ideas, endgame understanding, and everything you might imagine regarding this opening. You will learn many things, not only for Najdorf system, but also how to prepare your opening repertoire in general. So take this methodology that Grandmaster Papaioannou has to show in this camp and apply it to every opening that you play. I'm sure that for many of you, even very strong players, this camp alone will be enough to play the night of. And of course, we know that Grandmaster Papaioannou made three separate Najdorf camps providing full repertoire. So, today we have only one lecture. I would just like to remind you to register separately for the second and the third day of the camp. This is everything that I wanted to announce beforehand. Now I want to welcome Grandmaster Papaioannou. Yanis, welcome, and you can start the lectures.
Thank you so much, dear Grigor, and welcome everybody to these fine lectures about deep ideas of the Najdorf. This camp is referring to all types of chess players. Grandmasters who are playing the Najdorf can definitely learn several things. Nobody knows everything. Amateur players or players who are not grandmasters, but let's say international masters, they also have to learn a lot. And even players who don't play the Najdorf, but they are thinking of taking up the Najdorf at some time in the future, here, this will help you to understand the theory, although it's not a camp about the theory and the typical ideas up to a very good extent. It is also very helpful for players who do not play the Najdorf and do not wish to play the Najdorf never in their lives, but still openings are many. Chess and chess understanding is one. Of course, it is also going to be helpful from White's point of view. These lectures are mostly targeted from Black's point of view, but a player with the white pieces, of course, who plays e4 and he enters the open Sicilian, he also has to learn several things. So here we go. We start with one very nice game. The problem was that there are so many Najdorf games where it's not easy to select some of the games. It's not easy to choose between the hundreds of games. So we are now studying Najdorfs, where Najdorf lines, not theory, of course, Najdorf typical ideas when both players castle short. So here we go. Let's see. Here, two good grandmasters are playing. White has a rating of 2610 and Black has a rating of 2550, very high level players. And Bishop e3 was played, e5. We are mainly studying the classical version of the Najdorf, which is d6 and e5. d6 and e6, we may pay a little bit of attention to this line, which is the Scheveningen setup. So e5, knight f3 was played, and now Black can play several moves. In my opinion, the most practical move is queen c7, just like it was played in this game, to stop bishop c4. We can also play this move. One may call this move even objectively a bit better than queen c7, but the problem here for Black is that his position is rather passive. This is the problem, that Black's position is rather passive, or you may call it way too solid, and it's not easy to play for win. This is happening in the knight f3 variation, which is the positional approach. So knight f3 was played, Black played queen c7. What are we studying now? What are we going to study? We are going to study a very important, very common strategy chosen by White, mainly, white will determine whether he wants to enter this strategy or not, which is opposite majorities. After a move like knight d5 at a good moment, knight takes d5. Now, he didn't play knight d5, which is a mistake at this moment, but we are talking about this type of position with e d5, where black has a majority in the center and on the king side, and white has a majority on the queen side. So who is better in a position like this? As one can expect, the answer is always the same. It depends on who has the most active pieces. So let us now see several ideas about this very important type of game. A4 was played. This move is important because let's clarify something, some typical idea of the queen c7 move. The move queen c7 for black is in fact serving two purposes, not just one. The first purpose is that it stops bishop c4. However, there is a second idea behind queen c7. The queen from c7 supports, after a b5 move, the b7 square for our bishop. For example, white has to play a4 now because b5 is a threat. For example, if white plays this move, look, b5 is a very good move for black now, because after knight d5, knight takes d5, queen takes d5. Imagine if our queen was here, we are losing the rook. But with our queen on c7, black goes bishop b7, and he has a great game. So two purposes of the move queen c7, two ideas behind this move. Stopping bishop c4 and supporting a bishop b7 move after b5. That's why white has to play a4. If he doesn't play a4, black will go b5. Let's investigate such a position a little bit. So black goes b5. And let's suppose that white just castles. We are already out of book, but it doesn't matter. This is not a session about theory. Now, in this position is out of book now. Nobody in the world knows specific theory here. Nobody has spent time analyzing a position like this. Here is the first question for you. What would you play with the black pieces in this position? Black has several possibilities, as we can see. He can move both of his bishops. He can play b4, knight bd7, knight c6, and maybe other moves as well. Who would like to suggest a move for black? Of course, the analysis is made with the engines turned off. So let's see. How should black continue in this position where there are several possible moves? During the game, we will calculate. Najdorf is an opening which offers us something very good. It can give to black the initiative very early in the game if white goes wrong. You cannot get that in other openings so easily. However, there is also one disadvantage. If you get out of book, you have to calculate from the very first moves. So let's see. So there is a different idea about b5 being a mistake, but no, the truth is that b5 is a good move. b4 here would have been a mistake. So let's see. It is black to move. Usually after b5, we must play either bishop b7, bishop e7, I mean, preparing to castle short, or knight bd7, this move. Why should we delay this bishop b7 move? It's not really a bad move, but we need to stay flexible with the bishop, because if we play here, I can see that white will play knight d5, but let's insert a4 first. Now it would be very dangerous for white to take on e4, for black to take on e4. We are lagging in development. We will definitely not do that. We will push, and look, now he goes knight d5. I don't want to take with the bishop here because we have weaknesses on the light squares. On the other hand, if I take with the knight, I don't necessarily want the bishop to be on b7. So this move, bishop b7, is less flexible. Typically, in the Najdorf, After b5, if our bishop is still on c8, the next move is knight b d7. Or in this particular position, after castling, the next move is knight b d7. If you want to play a move very fast, if you are playing Blitz, knight b d7. But here we should also consider bishop e7 first, because we need to be close to castling very good. So let's go back. After queen c7, the best move is a4. We continue bishop e7 here, and black played knight b d7. This move fits well when there is a knight on f3. We want to play here and here to attack the pawn on e4. We don't want to play bishop e6 because of bishop of knight g5. On the other hand, if this was here, in that case, we wouldn't need queen c7 really, because imagine this position with our queen on d8. White cannot really go bishop c4 and keep the bishop in the diagonal. So in that case, we would have played bishop e6, knight b d7. So let's see what is happening now. Knight b d7, white played a5, castles, and knight c5. And white goes knight d5. Knight takes d5, e takes d5. Now, what is happening in a position like this? Both players have chances to gain the initiative. White has gained space with this nice move a5, and his plan is to start pushing on the queen side with c4 and b4 and so on. Black, on the other hand, obviously, will play in the center and on the king side, where his pieces are targeting and where he has this extra f pawn. So here, black played f5. Let's clarify one thing. We are not studying the theory here, but the theory in the Najdorf, besides general principles, is also important, especially at high level. So f4 was played, f5, sorry, was played, but this is not a good move in this particular position. In this particular position, as it seems, the best move is bishop g4. And in some occasions, well, we want to play f5, of course, but in some occasions, we can even take this knight. For example, after h3, which is not a good move, we will take on f3, and we will play f5. And now, white has the pair of bishops indeed, but we have a quite good knight and a very powerful bishop, which will come to f6, and we will play e4. And additionally, our pawns in the center and on the king side may start advancing with game of tempo, e4, f4, and so on. So the best move for black would have been bishop g4. Black played f5. The problem with this move is not easy to see. White plays c4. That's the right way to continue. Pushing b4 first would have been a very big mistake, of course, because black will go here, and the knight will come to c3 very soon. So white goes c4, and here is the problem for black now. Black, unfortunately, cannot play this very logical looking move. This very logical looking move is a mistake, in fact, because white can play this amazing move, bishop takes c5, and after queen takes c5, white will block the position with bishop d3 and maybe queen c2 later. In this position, also according to the engine, white has a clear advantage because, for example, this bishop now is very bad. Among other things, white wants to play here and b4. For example, after this move, look at this move, bishop g4, now too late for that. White can play such a move, or even such a move, if you can believe. And now we take on f3, but unfortunately, there is one move that has been played by black, which now turns out to be an awful, terrible positional mistake. If I take this move back, black is better. But with this move played on the board, white has a huge advantage. Which move is that? Who can see which move we are referring to? Which move is a move that black would definitely want to take back? You all understood it. Black would like to put this back here, or even here, or in his pocket, but not on f4. Now all the diagonals have been closed. We can clearly see that after this and rook g1, the white king is very, very safe, and rook g2, nobody is attacking the king. And on the contrary, white will continue with his attack, with his majority attack. Very good. So white is better. So describing general ideas is one thing, very good, but in the Najdorf, because it's a tactical and aggressive opening, quite often concrete theory is needed. So after c4, black played e4. Then knight d2 is a very good move. This is what white should play in order to stop f4. Now after f4, he will take on c5. Knight d7 was played, and black is threatening f4. But look, white plays f4 himself. So the problem in this position for black, as we have briefly described in words, is that white is faster with his attack, faster with his development, and so on. Black took en passant. I believe he has to take en passant. If he plays a move like this, then the easiest solution is rook a2 in order to unpin the pawn and push it to b4. But I can imagine even such a move being played. And if you are a very tough guy, which move can you play? If you are a very tough guy with white, who will suggest a move for very tough people? The move is this one. b4, look at this move. It seems I'm not so tough, I wouldn't play it. However, after taking and queen takes, I don't know what the engine suggests here, but look, white has obvious compensation. And during the game, with the engine switched off, things are not simple at all for black. Very good. So after f4, e takes f3, I believe has to be played. However, knight takes f3, and now black's f5 move becomes irrelevant. Black would very much prefer now to put this pawn back. Remember, we have discussed about these two pawns. In chess, these two pawns, e5 and f5, or f5 and e4, they should be together next to each other, either f5, e5, depending on the position, or f5, e4, or e5, f4, depending on the position. So here, look, the e pawn has disappeared under bad circumstances, under bad conditions, and now this pawn looks completely irrelevant. Black would rather put it back, and in that case, he would have some counterplay in the center. What is black's counterplay here? To play along the e5, to play on the squares e5, e4, e3, e2, and so on. Very good. So black played f4, bishop d4, and white is better in this position. He played b4, and b6 was played. This is interesting. After taking here, white has a very pleasant choice between knight takes e5, after which black will go here, of course. Knight takes d4, I mean, and queen takes d4, centralizing the queen. In principle, look at this queen on d4, a royal square for the queen. In principle, one should not prefer something else when he can centralize his queen. Centralizing the queen tends to be very good if our opponent cannot kick us out in the next one or two moves. So white has a huge advantage. Let's briefly see what happened. b6, a takes b6, and they got to this endgame, which is better for white. Several moves by black now appear irrelevant. For example, in such an endgame, who would spend tempi to play f5, f4? Nobody, but these tempi have already been spent, right? So c5 was played, white got a big advantage, as you can see, and later he won the game. Let's check another game where white again won. And we will explain once again why white's majority was better. So let's see. This is basic theory in the Najdorf. Since we are discussing deep ideas, let's a little bit talk about less deep ideas. When he plays bishop e2 in the Najdorf, the most accurate move tends to be bishop e7. In the past, that was debatable, and Fischer himself would play bishop e6. But this move here, this has to be played after a bishop e3 move. This move here has almost been refuted after f4. So bishop e7, when you see bishop e2, let's see, bishop e3, now we play bishop e6, we have to play bishop e6, castles, and bishop f3 was played. Now, should black play b5 here? The answer is no. Let's clarify something about this move b5. This move, in order to be played, demands good development by black. You cannot just push b5 very early unless, that's a little bit paradoxical, our bishop is on c8. With our bishop on c8, b5 can be considered depending on the situation. If I also put the queen on c7, for example, if you remember. But with the bishop on e6, you can rarely play b5 without developing the knight first. So b5 is a very bad move here, very premature move and very bad. White will play a4. After b4, white will jump here. And after bishop takes, e takes, we have a lot of weaknesses here on the queen side. Such moves are coming, or queen d2 is coming, and we are forced to start playing on the wrong part of the board. Look, here, white has already opened up the queen side. He wants to put his bishop on b5, and we are slower with our counterplay. For example, after this, intending f5, let's describe it a bit. How should white continue here in this position? What do you think? I see one main move. It's almost certain that he has to play this move, but maybe there are one or two candidates. What do you think? How should white continue? One thing is for sure, black would rather put all these pawns back, a6, b7, and so on. It serves nothing to be there. So white has to play this move. It is very important to play this move, bishop e2. The bishop is going to this very nice square, of course. And after f5, white will choose between f4 and even f3. This move also makes sense, f3. Very good. So in any case, we played a6 and b5 while not being well developed, and we were forced to push this pawn again and again, and this gave good play to white. So after bishop f3, it's not time for b5, it's time to develop the pieces. Knight b d7. The knight in the Najdorf usually goes to d7. White played a4, and now black played knight b6. This is an interesting move, and white cannot just allow knight c4 here. If he allows knight c4 and he goes back bishop c1, black will gain the initiative. Of course, white should never take here. This is a horrible move. It deserves question mark, a big question mark. Now black has a big advantage, and in fact, out of the 6 remaining minor pieces, the strongest one is the bishop on e7. Strangely enough, the bishop on e7. All the black minor pieces are very good, but this bishop will later come to this diagonal since it is unopposed. His colleague is out of the board, the white's dark square bishop, and it cannot prevent maneuvers like this one. And black will soon gain a very big advantage. So after a4, knight b6, the threat is knight c4, but bishop takes b6 is not the way to stop it. White goes back, knight d2. but still there is no e d5 type of position yet. Yes, it may happen later. So rook c8 was played and a5. And now, surprisingly, black's best move was in fact this one, knight back to d7. And this is a not so good version for black of the so-called Karpov variation, with all the pieces in the board moving them up and down. Like, let's say our tempi are slightly less good, white might be slightly better, and that's all. But this would have been better. This move looks like a very good move, but in fact, it's a mistake. After taking here, black took with the rook. Yes, usually black takes with the rook, but queen d2, and as it seems now, black does not appear to have any plan. He played queen c8, and here comes a very nice idea by white. How should white continue here? The move is not bishop e2. Who can find the very deep idea for white, which is giving him a clear plan of action later? How should white continue here? Let's see. Don't forget that the e4 pawn is hanging. So who would like to suggest a move? The move is rook f to c1 indeed, as predicted by some of the players. The idea is to protect this pawn. White is moving this rook from f1, of course, because all the play is focusing on the queen side. So this rook is needed here on a1, and white wants to jump knight d5. Possibly there is not enough time for that because e4 will drop. This has to be calculated by both players, of course. Black played here, and especially now, there is no knight a4 anymore, but the move knight d5 gains in strength. So knight d5 was played, bishop takes, e takes d5, and queen e8. This move would have been a bit better. However, white still has a nice advantage here. White will play bishop e2. The bishop has already served its purpose on f3. It's pointless to keep it here on f3 because at some moment this pawn will come here and black will start attacking. So bishop e2 is the move, and after rook c8, white will continue with c4. For example, g6. Yes, g6 is a quite typical move. We want to go here and f5 and knight g7, b4. So every player is continuing with his pawn majority. However, white is faster. And in that case, since white has gained a lot of space and it seems that this bishop has some ways out, it can come here, or here it can attack the a6 pawn and so on. So in that case, it seems that the pair of bishops is also important. This is not always the case. That's why I'm clarifying it. Here in this position, additionally with being faster, white is helped by the pair of bishops. And white is better. Let's see what happened in the game. Instead of this queen d7, black played queen c8. If here, for example, just a second, if here black would play this move, in that case, white will definitely take it. And now he lost the pair of bishops, but he has gained some tempi for his attack. So now white has, as we say, has a, what's the word? Transformation has transformed his advantage. His advantage is not the pair of bishops anymore. His advantage is now a very fast majority that is running. And to be honest, after f5, and let's say this move, maybe there are better moves, look, it does not seem to be a clear plan for black. What does black want to do? This is pointless. White can even take it. And this, okay, bishop f2, and now what? Black's play is really very slow. Don't worry, the Najdorf is a wonderful opening. For now, we are showing a couple of badly played games by black, but then we will see much better play. So the move here, queen e8, was played, and white's idea is more or less the same. He played c4 and b4. The queen is well placed on d3. White, who is a very good grandmaster, had seen very far. Black played knight d7, intending f5, but white had seen very deeply. Look what white played. He played bishop g4. This move, and now it is not easy for black to play f5. Black played h6. It's not easy to suggest a move, but after played g6, but he saw that there is bishop h6, and bishop h6 is winning the exchange. Another good move for white here, besides bishop g4, which is the best, another good move for white here, surprisingly, is also this move. Look, g4. This move will delay black's plan for quite some time. Black's plan is g6 and f5, but there is no g6 because of bishop h6. So this will delay his plans for quite some time, and white has a big advantage. Are we going to be in danger with our king? No, of course not. It's enough for white to just go here, and his king is totally safe. So the same thing has happened again. White is much faster with his attack. When did he even find time to play a4, a5? You cannot do that so easily in the Najdorf, play a4 and a5. The tempi don't really work for white so easily. And yet here it happened. So let's see what happened. Bishop h6. There was now, I like black's decision. He chose, he has an objectively lost position, but at least he chose to play energetically in a lost position. So here, queen g3, white still has to play very good moves because there is some compensation. So c5 was played. That's a very high level move by a very high level grandmaster with the white pieces. And later, white won. You will study the rest of the game by yourself. Let's check now another bad game for black, the last one. So in order to describe some mistake, which surprisingly I have seen this mistake being committed even by some grandmasters. Let's see. So bishop e7. Here, this is a small exception. Bishop e7 can be played, and then bishop e6 on the next move. f3, bishop e6. Queen d2. Now black can play all sorts of moves, knight bd7 and h5 and castling short. He played h5. Knight d5 was played, threatening bishop b6. Here, of course, it is very important for black to capture the knight, either with a bishop, bishop takes d5, or knight takes d5. This move would have been a big mistake. How will white continue? This is, of course, a very basic idea in the Najdorf, and this will give him a big advantage. So not this move. This move would have been a counter mistake by white because black will take here intending to go d5. In fact, the right move is c4, of course. Now we cannot even take with the knight. We are losing a piece after cd5. And after bishop takes d5, white won't give us this ed5 and the possibility to play f5. He won't give us counter chances. He will play a symmetrical position, of course, with a pair of bishops. And now this is a one-sided game. White is attacking, black is defending. And additionally, our h5 move seems to me to be very relevant. So let's see what happened after knight d5. Indeed, black took on d5. Personally, I prefer to take with the bishop in most cases. And bishop f5 was played. Bishop e2. Now, a very nice idea for white is to go for short castling. It's not obligatory, but it is very interesting to go for short castling and then start playing on the queen side with c4 and so on. And here, Black committed a typical and very big mistake. He played a5. No, this is a big mistake. Under slightly different circumstances, a5 can be a very good move. But let's clarify it once and for all. a5 for Black in such positions is almost always a mistake when White's bishop has access to this square. In other words, when this diagonal is open. In other words, when the pawn is not on c4, then a5 is a mistake. White must play a4 just like he did, and he should castle short. Castling long here for White would have been totally illogical, because in a good position, all of a sudden you add risk for absolutely no reason. White should castle short, and after this move, White must play bishop b5. Very good. It is never too late for White to go wrong. After this move, c4, which would have been a very bad move, now Black has counterplay. He may consider b6, or maybe this move intending f5 and so on, but White will not play c4. So bishop b5. Please do not make this mistake. Never. Do not play a5 when the move bishop b5 is playable, unless, of course, it is theory or some specific concrete analysis. We won't deal with that anymore. However, we will stay in the different majority for opposite majorities, because this is very important in the Najdorf, a very important chapter. So we will study a few more games out of the countless games, literally thousands, which you can find in these positions. So e5, bishop here, you see bishop e3, you play bishop e6. Knight d5. Now, here comes another important moment. First of all, we cannot win a pawn on e4 because White is threatening bishop b6 check. We cannot take here, obviously, because bishop b6 not check. Knight c7 is with check, and we lost. So now, here comes a very important moment. Many players, without thinking, even sometimes experienced players, capture on d5. Just a second. This is what you said 1 minute ago, that we must capture on d5. No. For the moment, there is a difference. The e4 pawn is hanging. If we were here, just like in the previous example, now Black should not play knight bd7 because c4 is coming. Now Black should take on d5 immediately. If we were here, again, Black should not play knight bd7 because c4 is coming. Black should take on d5, either with the knight or with the bishop. However, at this moment, the e4 pawn is hanging, so it is very important to play knight bd7 for Black. Why? Because in any case now, we are threatening knight takes e4, and White will be forced to play a less desirable move. Ideally, White would like to castle short after making a deal that we won't capture his e4 pawn, and then we take on d5, and e5 and his tempi are wonderful. But no, he has to play one move which is less desirable, no matter which move he chooses, to protect his e4 pawn. So remember, in such positions, after he jumps knight d5, if his e4 pawn is hanging, it is very important not to capture the knight right away, but to play here. Why? Let's see. Queen d3 was played. Let's see what will happen. White has to defend this pawn in order to threaten c4. So White plays here, for example, threatening c4. Now we will capture on d5, either with a knight or with the bishop, which is usually my preferred move. And now it is very important that this f3 move is weakening for White. White would rather put this pawn back here. so that he will even have more influence on the king side, controlling some diagonals for defensive purposes. So here, after f3, white has lost sight of this square we can play here, which is much more active than this move. We can play here, intending f5 with good counterplay. Very good. There is an interesting question, fundamentally interesting, which is here, theoretically, and let's say f3, black will need to play d5 sooner or later to get rid of his weakness, but theoretically speaking, this would open the center for the pair of bishops. Yes, theoretically, this would have been a correct answer, but practically, over the board, we have black has very active pieces. Usually d5 is followed by gain of tempi, and so it is black in the end who is gaining the initiative. If the pieces were placed differently and there were no concrete dynamics in black's position, then the whole way of thinking for white would have been correct. But here with the pawn on f3 and this bishop hanging, black is doing great. Very good. So that's why knight takes e7 is usually a mistake. So f3 is an undesirable move because black will take it and he can make use of this square. And of course, we feel it. Nobody has to say this to us. We feel it that the dark squares are more weak this time because of this move f3. Then let's check another try for white. Instead of queen d3 and instead of f3, he tries this move, bishop f3. This is a bad move, in fact. And this time, we will take with the knight. When you see bishop on f3 in such situations, this is the best idea, and I will show you why. He castles, and now black is better. We can castle short, but why don't we stop this move first? I would like to insert this move first, forcing him to play c3, and only now we castle. When you see a black bishop on f5, we want to play here an f5, and our tempi, black's tempi, are really very good this time because white's bishops are very badly placed, and of course this is not here, so white cannot play a4, bishop e2, bishop b5. This is not possible. If he plays something like this, we don't care at all. We start our attack with f4, and black has tremendous, very fast counterplay. We will play hide and seek with these two white bishops on f3 and on e3. Black's pawns are continuing attacking with tempo. Very good. So after knight bd7, we are forcing him to protect his pawn, and he played queen d3. Yes, he has to play. This is basic theory. There is nothing wrong with queen d3, of course, but it is a small concession. White, if possible, would prefer to castle, but he cannot. His pawn is hanging. So queen d3, white is threatening c4. In this particular position, this move is playable, and after c4, b5, this is concrete theory, but the easiest way to play is to take with the bishop. E takes d5, and castles. And white castles, and this is a theoretical position. I have some very nice memories with black. I won one or two very nice games, and I also made a fast draw with black, and I won several bleach games as well. So this position is quite good for black. Black played g6. Black can play several moves here. This g6 is a move that the engine in general likes very much. The plan is to go here, and then either f5 or knight f5, depending on the situation. There are other moves for black. This very unique move, which you need to study separately and know exactly what to do after this move. And of course, black can play a useful move like this one, rook c8. Another playable and interesting move is this, knight e8. And now, here comes another very important idea. What is black threatening after knight e8? That's an important idea that we should know. What is black threatening after knight e8? Let's see. So, very good. Here comes a very important rule in the Najdorf, which I have created because I was getting angry that it's not referred to any book. It's not mentioned in any book. Here it is. In positions in the Najdorf where white has played e d5, it is always or almost always good for black to trade the dark square bishops. I repeat, you see e d5, it is very good for black to trade the dark square bishops. Even if this was here and it was black to move, we would still go bishop g5 and get done with it. Bishop g5. So here, white must play queen d2 to stop it. And a possible continuation could have been this one. Now maybe f4 is the move. After f3, black must consider some very clever idea. Who will suggest this idea? How can black continue here besides some logical moves like this one? Black has a very unique and typical idea. Who can find it? Based on what we are saying. It has some advantages and some disadvantages. Let's see. Very interesting. H6 intending bishop g5. Indeed, this is another very good idea. So the typical idea is f4, and after this move, bishop h4. White doesn't want to play g3 because he will weaken his king side very much. On the other hand, one may claim that we have weakened this e4 square and this diagonal. Indeed, but in the end, black will limit the damage. He will play here. This is coming here and possibly to f5. And under the threat of knight e3, white may have to take on f5 and we will take with a pawn. And additionally, if he tries to do this, we will counter this knight on e4 with knight f6. So in that case, we get a playable and interesting position with nice counterplay for both sides. Very good. So castles, let's see how they played in this game. g6 is interesting. Now this move here, it can be played, but it's irrelevant. White doesn't have any sort of attack. So he should play something else. a4. Which is the move that black should not play here? First of all, should I play this? No, that's a totally irrelevant move here, e4. No, we don't play like this in the Najdorf. So let's see. Which is the move that black should definitely avoid? Black should definitely avoid this move. Very good. That's a bad move. White will move his queen sooner or later, and he will put the bishop here and c4. So after a4, black played knight e8. Indeed, this is an interesting move, intending bishop g5 or f5, depending on the situation. Now, another playable idea is this one with b6. We will also comment this idea. This is the so-called a6, b6 setup against the pair of bishops by white. I repeat, a6, b6 setup against the pair of bishops. White is supposed to have the pair of bishops, and in that case, we get good play. Our knights are quite good, especially if our bishop was here. This would have been really very good for black here. So if he goes c4, black will play a5, of course, now, and black has started blocking the position, and he will be better, because after some moves, this is coming, of course, yes? Very good. And if white, instead of c4, if white plays a5 first, then black plays b5, and after c4, we usually take it, and we play queen b8, rook c8, and queen b7. Look. For example, here, this is the ideal square for the queen. The queen should be on b7, threatening the d5 pawn sooner or later, protecting the a6 pawn, and we are even ready to play on the b file, and black gets good play. Very good. Let's see what happened in this game. G6 here, 98 was played, threatening bishop g5, and white played here a5. So bishop g5 indeed is a very good move. Let's better play bishop g5 to have this bishop in our pocket, and then we see. Rook a4, rook c8 is a useful move in general, c4. Now the rook on a4 appears to be a bit irrelevant. Black played f5, f3, and he took on e3 and queen takes. Black is better in this position. He played this move f4, which is interesting because from a strategical point of view, we are not discussing tactics now, because he wants to do this plan here and here. We have already seen this plan. So some preparatory moves here, and then knight g7, and white could also play this, but again, this is coming. Knight f5 takes and g takes. Black is still doing very well. So knight d2 was played, and white regretted this move, rook a4, rook b4, and he played rook a4. Then black got the initiative, and he started playing on both sides of the board. Let's clarify something. Let's suppose that this was here, and this was, let's say, here. Sometimes, usually, when when white doesn't have the pair of bishops, let me create an even better example. Just give me a few seconds. Let's suppose that we were here, so, and here. So, no, that's an even worse example. So, let's say, just a second, I need to show this so that it will be more clear. So here, due to the absence of the pair of bishops, sometimes black can even play this move. Of course, it has to be calculated. Yes, it doesn't matter if strategically it is good, it can be good. But here, for example, I don't really like it. Maybe he can play c5 and take on a6. It has to be calculated. Remember, Najdorf or French defense or King's Indian, no matter what you play, the calculation has to be done. And calculation is by far the most important thing in chess. 80% is calculation, and everything else is the rest 20%. So b6, however, can be a valid idea. Very good. You will see the rest of the game by yourself. We will check now one more game here, and if there is enough time, we will return to it, because I have way too many games. So in this game, black lost in the end, but he had a very good position. He played ideally. So f3, e5, and bishop e6. Let's see what happened. Bishop here, bishop e7. Usually when white plays f3, he wants to go for long castling, of course. However, castling short is not forbidden either. Knight d5, the pawn on e4 is protected, c4 is threatened. Black has to take. He took with the knight, which makes sense. I would have taken with the bishop here, and bishop f5, very good. c4 was played. I think this is a very premature move, c4. Black instead should decide where to castle. For example, he should probably play bishop e2 and castle short. And black has still a very good game. After such a move, we can take it, and we can even consider this move, because when you see the move e d5, it is good for black to trade the dark square bishops. Very good. So let's see what happened. c4 was played, knight d7, bishop e2, very good. According to what we have said, and according to what you believe, how should black continue here? He has several interesting moves, several candidate moves. I can see at least 3 of them. So who would like to comment? How should black continue here? Let's see. Very good. Bravo to all of you. Black must either play here. When you see a bishop on f5, you should consider this intending f5, or a5, and he chose this move, a5. I like this move. a5 is playable because there is no access to the b5 square. If I put this back, then white will go a4 and he is better. Or let's say at least equal. Very good. a5 is good. White has to castle short, and now b6 was played. This move can be played, but the idea of a5 is not really to chase the knight away. The idea is to block, to keep the queen side blocked for several moves in order to play f5. White played knight c1. And a nice move for black is knight c5, because it will take too much time for white to prepare a3 and b4. White played knight d3. Of course, such a move would have been a big mistake. B takes. Even this is better for black, but B takes is the best. And knight d3. Black will play this move, bishop d7, followed by f5. Of course, a move, or even bishop g6, of course, followed by f5. A move that is not good for black. There is no need for this move, but still black is better. Sorry, I can even start with this move because look, who played f3, and now we are jumping up and down in the dark squares. So even this move theoretically, which I don't see any reason to play it, but even this move, and let's say we don't have bishop e3 for some reason, so even this is a big advantage for black. With opposite color bishops, black will build his position. And for example, I see a nice idea to go here and so on. We can, as I like to say, we can paint on the dark squares. We can do pretty much whatever we want because white has a dead bishop. And if he puts the bishop here, this time this bishop is out of play. Imagine black will play rook a7. Let's see. Let's say I play such moves. I would like to go rook a7 and put the rook here or even here, play in the center, play on the king side, and so on. And this is a strategically winning game. Should we go a4 and a3? No, this move a4 for black and a3 doesn't make sense because white will play b4, in fact, and he will come back here. And he has an initiative. This pawn is not supported with, by the rest of the pieces. Our play is not really on the queen side. So b6 was played, knight c5, and black is better. Knight d3, and he played bishop d7, intending f5. This is a very good move, but another move is suggested by the engine, which has also been suggested by one of the players in a similar situation, h6. Yes, we are learning this move, deep understanding of the Najdorf. h6 intending bishop g5. Indeed, this is a typical idea. And when you see ed5, we have already mentioned that almost under every circumstances, black would like to trade the dark square bishops. For example, white plays something like this, and bishop g5. And he takes it, and now we can also take with the queen. Yes, this position is also good for black, but to be honest, I would rather take with the h-pawn. And now I played this bad king g1. We can continue with g6, king g7, rook h8. At some moment long term, f4 is coming, and black has a clear advantage. Very good. So h6 would have been the best. He played here, and f5. And f4, this is correct. And bishop h4, let's suppose that we play this move. Already we made some mistakes, and unless there is something concrete, our situation is not so good anymore. Now, strategically speaking, unless we have this move, of course, yes, maybe there are some tactics, but we are not examining tactics now. Look, a typical idea for white is this. The idea of this move is that after bishop here, he wants to go bishop g1 and keep the bishop and try to play on the queen side. In this particular position, however, black does have good play. The way I see it, there is very good play for black here. Here in bishop g3, there is nothing wrong with black's position, yes? So we are discussing the ideas, but of course, some concrete calculation will be needed, and we need to also see who is faster here, yes? So practically, this position is unclear, even if the engine says that white is better objectively or black is better objectively. Nobody knows for sure during the game. Nobody is in the mind of the computer. We are trying to play like humans. Very good. That was a big part of the Najdorf. Let me quickly cover this slightly different version, which we mentioned. We are talking again about different majorities. And let's see what happened now. Now that black has the chance, he is not committed with bishop e7, by the way. Now black must play g6. This is still theory, of course. He must choose the line with g6 because the bishop is much better placed on g7. Why didn't we play g6 on the first place? Because this was here, and d6 was a weakness. There was a knight on c3. Yes, this idea works only if there is a knight on d5, and he ends up with a pawn on d5. So bishop e2, bishop g7. Let's clarify once again here that after this, he's threatening c4. I take it. I play here. Bishop e2, g6. Yes, we have shown that in the past. And this is a big mistake, after which black is much better. Because when you see e d5 in the Najdorf, it is very important to exchange, whenever we can, the dark square bishops. So here, this short castling was careless. He should have played here. And after bishop h6, black has a big advantage, not a small one. If he takes here, we take it. One tempo doesn't mean anything. We go here and then king here, or h4, knight h5. You may remember one game which I have shown on a different occasion in the Najdorf, an amazing game by black, who won with many sacrifices. Of course, after this, white can keep the bishops with bishop h2, but this has a cost because black managed to get this strong, powerful diagonal. Let's see what happened in this game. So they continue, castle short, and now in this particular position, b6 is the most accurate move, stopping knight a5. This is a theoretical position. And remember this nice setup. Which are the characteristics of this nice setup for black? A pawn on a6, protected by a rook on a8, a pawn on b6, e d5 by white, of course, and our bishop preferably on g7. Here it is, a6, b6 with our bishop on g7, and white should have the pair of bishops. What is so good about black's position here? White doesn't seem to have a clear plan. He played a4. No, we won't play a5. We will castle. But look, white doesn't seem to have a plan. He played a5. We already commented on that. We will comment again. We go b5, and black is at least equal. If he plays c4 intending a5, this time black goes a5 himself, and he's better. But isn't this square a weakness, this square? Well, it's an insignificant weakness. For example, after this, we can play knight c5. I'm already threatening knight b3. Let's say he goes here, knight h7, knight a2, and now we can play f5 with an advantage for black, or let's say with very good play, or we can even play this little move, bishop f6, with an obvious idea, bishop g5 to take over this diagonal. And f5, look, white carried out his plan, which cost him a lot of time. He did put his knight on b7, but on b5, but as you can see, nothing much is happening. Black can continue with this move, for example, knight f6, or just queen d7, bring his pieces into play, and black should have quite a nice advantage here with good play against the white king. White's problem is this light square bishop now, a very clear problem. Very good. So let's see what happened. We mentioned this a6, b6 story. He played a5, we go b5. And c4, we take on c4 and we put the queen on b7. That's the ideal square. So queen c7 was played, and then queen b7. Or you can play here and then queen b7. Or you can play queen b8 and then queen b7. Let's do it with a tempo. Queen c7 and queen b7. Black is already better. White's pawn is standing very badly on a5. This should have been here now. And white could play knight a5, knight c6, and he would have a winning position. But the pawn is on a5. So queen d3 was played. Black is already standing very well. For example, after this move, intending rook b4, we just go here, and white cannot even threaten the pawn on a6, because if he plays queen e2, bishop takes a6, his knight is hanging. So black stands perfectly well. Additionally, white made this mistake in this position. He played queen d3, and it even allows e4, and the knight is coming to e5. This is already a winning position for black. For example, rook c8, and so rook to e8, there is tremendous compensation here. It's a completely winning position for black. Very good. Some combinations left and right, and black won the game. Very good. So let us now change the subject, because there are so many things to see, and continue with something else. So another win for white. And an important strategy, which we have also mentioned in the past as part of the theory, now we will see it mainly as part of strategy. So bishop e7, a4, castles, castles, b6, this logical looking move b6 in the knight and the e5 knight f3 systems is almost always a big mistake. Several players are afraid of this, which can be very good in other lines, but not so much in the Najdorf. In the Najdorf, it is hardly ever, in the classical Najdorf with e5, it is hardly ever a big problem. So they play b6 because they are afraid of it. And now there is some typical idea for white, which gives him a big advantage. It can be played on 2 or 3 different versions. Here, white played this fantastic move, queen d3. You will see this idea of ending up with the bishop on c4. Here it is. You will see it without queens. This idea can also be played with queens on the board. Here, and bishop e2 and bishop c4, and as you will see, white has a huge advantage, or you can see it even in this version, and white can even take on f6. So let's see what happened. This is the game Nigel Short, Boris Gelfand, 2 super high level players. So knight d2 was played, and look, Nigel Short is stabilizing his position, f3 and b3, that's it. Black is left without any plan. Black can never play b5 because this will lose a pawn. He can never play d5, and so his pieces do not make any sense anymore. Black is forced to play passive waiting moves. White played here, and he put his knight on e3. White clearly chose the moment that this rook takes here is interesting, but as it seems, not good enough. Yes, white is still better after this. I would have probably captured here and lose maybe a bit earlier, but on the way, set up maybe a trap or two. So here, knight e3, and that's it. Black doesn't have any plan. He is waiting up and down. White improved his position, and he won the game. We will see, of course, what to do with black as well. Let's check. another badly played game by black. Here we go. So knight bd7, intending b5, threatening b5 and bishop b7. White goes a4. Knight bd7 is a mistake. Yes, we are threatening b5, but if white knows what he is doing, after a4 he is better. So castles, knight d2. Anyway, white is better now. Black would have a very normal position if he could play this illegal move, but he cannot. And he makes things worse by playing this b6 idea. White will put his bishop on c4 sooner or later, and he will have a huge advantage. There you go, bishop c4 and castles, and queen e2, threatening even this pawn. Rook c8 was a further mistake. Let's play a slightly better move for black. Look, but black doesn't have any plan now. Black doesn't really know what to do. White can even capture here. If black plays this active looking move, he has abandoned the d5 square now. White has a winning position. And in general, black doesn't have any plan. What is white's idea? Let's suppose I play up and down. White has a very powerful idea. He will put the bishop here so that it won't be hanging. I want to move this knight. And let's say he plays a move. This is coming here. And it's time to take this knight and to play here. And that's the end of the game. I don't even know what to suggest for black here. So this is coming here. And that's the end of the game. White has a totally winning position. Very good. So this is pretty much what happened in this game. Black even had to play a5 here. The position is terrible. And yet black has a rating of 2360. But he didn't know what to do. So knight here. All the light squares in black's positions are horribly weak. And white won very easily. Let's see in that case what black should do. Let's see. So we are talking about the one version of the e5 knight f3 variation. So the one idea is that we cannot play here, of course, because of knight g5. So let's play queen c7. When you see knight f3, queen c7 to stop bishop c4. This move is played threatening bishop takes f6. Knight bd7. Black would like to put this here now, but it's not possible. So bishop e2 and h6, the move that needs to be avoided by black, and yet this mistake has several times been committed even by grandmasters. This is a very bad move. And immediately you will see this knight d2, bishop c4 version. And white is much better. So what is then, if we cannot play b6, what is the way to get out of the position of the bind? We cannot move this bishop. I cannot move this knight. He will take on f6. Here it comes. h6 is the way. White will not take on f6 because this will make things very easy for us. He will go here. If he goes to e3, then we will execute our initial plan with knight c5, threatening this pawn. If he takes it, we take with the queen. And after knight d2, finally we develop our pieces, bishop e6 and bishop e7. Black has a wonderful position. He castles short and he has a great game. So let's go back again. We are talking about the e5 knight f3 version, which can occur after several different move orders. So we are here, and the plan is h6, and definitely not b6. So he goes here, keeping the tension. If b6, knight d2 gives an advantage to white. And the key idea is g5. This is how we neutralize this plan by white. h6 and g5. Now, we have some weaknesses, yes, but on the other hand, our bishop is not badly placed here on b7. We will put it here to control everything. And additionally, we develop very fast. This comes with tempo. And after here, bishop e6, and so on. And please don't forget that white has a badly placed bishop on g3. So black has a great game, and she went to win this game and to become world champion under 20. So let's see now some other idea. So we will now start talking about the d6 to d5 advance. Black plays d6 to d5. When is this good? When is this bad? In positions with short castling. So for both sides. This is a game where there is huge difference. Vasquela Gravis with the black pieces 2700 against a player 2150. So they played here and white played f3. This is not a good move. How to punish a slightly less good move? This is not any forced checkmate or anything. We punish it usually by playing the same moves. Knight b7, the same typical moves. How about this d5? No, this is irrelevant. White will take it. This is only making things easier for white. And look what happens here. White will play this move, and now black is in trouble. If here he will go bishop b6, we are in trouble. If bishop here, which is objectively the best move, white goes knight c5, and he has a nice advantage with a pair of bishops, even though black's position is playable. It's not lost, but it is worse. And additionally, look, a very early, fast d6 to d5 without proper preparation is bad. Additionally, if he goes here, white will target the bishop from a5. This is even worse for black because he will have to part with his light square bishop, which is the most important in this position. So d5 is very premature. Black goes knight b7. And white played rook f2. So now that we have developed the pieces, now, and white is playing passively, now black can consider b5 just like he did, or even rook c8. So b5 was played, and white played bishop f1. And now there comes knight b6. That's a very typical idea, which you can use only if the opponent plays very slowly. And rook d2 was played. b4, white has played very weak moves. He cannot, he went here. And now, look what happens. a5, black is keeping the tension. The knight on b1 cannot be developed. And finally, in a position like this, where we don't blunder anything, so the move d5 is really very good. Here it comes. Yes, in a position like this, it goes without saying that we play d5 and black has a totally winning game. He takes on d5, for example, and now usually both moves are good. This is very good, and even this is very good with a winning position, a crushing position for black. So that was way too easy because white played several weak moves. f3, rook f2, he had to go back to b1 with his knight, and so on. Let's see some more tough play. So let's see this game. So, before that, okay, let's see this game. Here, we will see something different. This is one of my favorite gambits for black. It can be played in this position, although white has so many different ideas. There is a possibility that we will play this move, this gambit. So we continue with knight b7. This is a theoretical position. And we can never play d5 here unless he goes totally wrong. White goes totally wrong. We will see the move d5 as a gambit, as a very promising gambit. So White plays queen c, black plays queen c7. We play moves like this. We are already threatening knight b6, knight c4, as you will see in the second lecture tomorrow with short castling. Knight b6, knight c4, and take with the rook. So white has to play a5. This is the so-called Karpov variation. Karpov used to play this line with white, which resembles more of d4 first move, very solid positional play. No side has a clear plan now. Rook e8. There is one plan for white. He can go here and here, but he's losing the pawn on a5, and here and trying to enter d5, or maybe knight c1, knight d3, knight b4, and here, but it doesn't work. Even if he plays here, bishop takes d5, and white will end up with a pawn on d5 in the end, because his c2 pawn is hanging. So this clearly shows that there is not a very clear plan for either side. But look, h6 is in general a very interesting move for black, and black is looking for the moment to play this very, very interesting d6 to d5 gambit. White can play all sorts of moves. Usually they play h3 here, or somebody may play bishop f3. The gambit is valid if the circumstances allow it. Now we will describe the circumstances and the necessary conditions of this very interesting gambit, which can happen after several move orders. You don't need to know theory, you just need to know the moment. So queen here, for the moment we are very far away from d5, and white can play all sorts of moves. He played here, let's see what happened. Queen c6 is irrelevant, bishop f3, black changed his mind, he played queen c7. Isn't he losing a tempo? Well, tempi are not important here, really. White played queen here, he may go here on the next move, and so on. Let's see what happened now. Knight d3 was played. So in situations like this, when you see the knight on d3, this is usually the best moment, and this is what black already had in mind. When you see the knight in no other square but d3, here is the moment to consider this amazing d5 gambit. So black played d5. Indeed, that's a fantastic move, and he is better. In this particular position, white cannot even take with the knight, because takes it, and we play bishop f5. We are threatening such moves, but look, he will defend against them. And now a move that black very much wants to play. We don't want to start attacking the d5 pawn. We didn't sacrifice the pawn in order to start trying and get it back throughout the game. Otherwise, we don't have to sacrifice it. Which is the move that black should definitely play in this wonderful gambit here, a move that every player, every good player would consider and would definitely play. I want several players to find it. So it's this move that you are thinking about. The move is not bishop b4, the bishop cannot go to b4. The move is, of course, bishop d6. He played d4 first. It's exactly the same. Bishop d6. This is the move that we want to play, intending e4. Black has tremendous compensation, no matter how white's pieces are arranged. He played d4 first, okay, and knight g4, and there is tremendous compensation. We are waiting for bishop d6. Yes, it has to be played, because white may threaten some ideas like this. Bishop takes knight d5 and so on. So let's better block the pawn. And here he played this. There is tremendous compensation. f5 comes. Everything works perfect for black. We have this powerful pawn majority, and our knight has some very nice squares, and black won this game easily. Let's check another very fine game. Just a second. Let me find it. It's this one. So again, with this gambit, that's a detail indeed. We are talking about deep knowledge in the Najdorf and deep understanding. You will, of course, spend some time in these lines. No, wait, that's a different one. That's a different one. Just a second. Sorry. It's this one. Yes. So, sorry for the mistake. Let's see. They play the Karpov variation. Which is the Karpov variation? White develops his pieces. He plays a4 and he starts moving the pieces up and down without a clear plan. So knight bd7, a4. Now it's the moment to play a4. Rook c8, as you will see tomorrow, there is a threat of knight b6 and knight c4 and taking with the rook. Even this move right away and taking with the bishop on c4 is also playable and good. But rook c8, let's see, a5, queen c7, and now both players start moving their pieces up and down. Look, black is even pretending that he is losing tempi, because tempi are not important in this rare situation. This doesn't happen in any other night of the Najdorf, but in this one it is happening. Look, nobody has a very clear plan. Queen c6, bishop here, queen back to c7, and so what? White doesn't have a very useful move. He played bishop e2 back. Black played here, again h6, let's see. Queen c7, he played queen c7 because he is getting ready to face knight d3. You cannot play this gambit with a queen on c6. He played here, he calculated that after knight d3, which was played, we have the perfect conditions for a gambit. d5 again, e d5 and bishop f5. Previously, this rook was here. I believe it's better on e8. We don't want to take the pawn on d5 back. It is better here, but even in this position, bishop d6, black is doing great. White doesn't really have a plan. He played g3, rook e8, threatening e4. Let's see what happened. Look at white's minor pieces. No piece is going anywhere. e4 was played here, and knight e5. Black has blocked everything very well here, and queen d7, keeping an eye on both flanks. This rook on a4 is hanging, and there are several weaknesses on the light squares. Queen f1 was played. White cannot play this move, I guess, because of bishop g4, and this is coming. Rook takes c3, and the other rook is hanging. So queen f1 was played. This is a completely winning position. Knight f3 check is winning right away for black here, and knight g4 with a very powerful attack. Look at black's pieces. All of them are taking active part in the game, and black cannot really exchange any one of them under good circumstances. So here, and knight takes, and bishop here gaining the tempo, and here white played bishop g4. I don't understand why he didn't take here. Possibly this bishop g4 was not played. It's a mistake. He can take on c3. Very good. And here comes this important way of playing the d5 gambit. What you need to remember is that we move the pieces up and down. If you want to play this gambit, you should slowly prepare it. You should pretend that nothing is happening. And when and if you see a knight on d3, you should already be prepared to play it. So since we were talking about the d6 to d5 advance, with short castling, same castling for both sides, of course, this had also to be mentioned, this d5 move, this interesting gambit. So we will stop our study for now. We have seen several important ideas in the Najdorf. I can say for both sides, there are several more important ideas to see. And after castling short or castling long, for white, and we will investigate them tomorrow. So, very good. We will stop our study for today. And of course, I will see you tomorrow. We have a lot of work to do.
Thank you very much, Yanis, for the excellent lecture. And we are all impatient to see what you will show tomorrow when there will be a really long day, 3 lectures. So,
Wait and
all
you
the
will
best.
see several wonderful stuff.
Of course, I'm sure. All the best and see you tomorrow.